James Stewart plays J.B. Jeffries, or just Jeff, a photographer wheelchair-bound due to the damage suffered after taking an especially dangerous photograph. He becomes increasingly interested in spying on his neighbours through the lens of his camera. He gradually grows more suspicious of a specific neighbour he is convinced has killed their wife. The film is one of Hitchcock's greatest in developing tension, and its use of setting, a restricted location in that the film centres on Jeff's apartment and the view he has from his window of the communal garden and glimpses into other apartments. The film has no globe-trotting sequences like Hitchcock's The Man Who Knew Too Much, nor does it require the psychedelic sequences of Vertigo. Rear Window is more similar to Rope in its use of limiting the locations and yet still effectively developing tension. A few examples of the way Rear Window develops tension includes Grace Kelly's character Lisa Carol Fremont being sent to the apartment of the suspected murderous neighbour by Jeff. She searches the apartment thoroughly for clues while Jeff spots a neighbour returning earlier than expected. The sequence develops from the perspective of Jeff's window, viewing through glimpses into the adjacent apartment's windows. As the neighbour is closer to discovering Lisa in his apartment, the stakes are rising. If he is a murderer and Lisa is found, it could lead to a death. The suspicions seem confirmed when the neighbour returns and is physically violent towards Lisa. The outburst is disrupted when the police arrive and break up the situation. Small glimpses into the suspected neighbour's apartment through only their windows seen from Jeff's apartment, instead of cutting to the interior of the adjacent apartment, limits what is shown to the audience and adds an element of voyeuristic glimpse. Less is usually more, and when Jeff relies on voyeuristic glimpses through his camera's lens, rather than directly experiencing the situation within the opposite apartment, the film adds a pressuring of the stakes. Jeff can't physically resolve the situation himself over there, so he must consider the next plan of action he is capable of committing to. Lisa found the clue that the neighbour murdered his wife, a wedding ring hidden away. As she signals to Jeff through the window, the murderous neighbour notices and glances to find Jeff watching him. This leads to a climactic conflict. The neighbour comes to Jeff's apartment and confronts him. Jeff only has the darkness of his apartment and the flash of his camera to protect him. Jeff's tactic is to stall. He is unable to leave his wheelchair to physically defend himself, so the tactic he commits to is blinding the antagonist, prolonging the situation. However, the antagonist gradually moves closer to Jeff and threatens him. This specific sequence only requires the interior of Jeff's apartment and very little else. The tension is developed with each closest step towards a physically defenseless Jeff the antagonist takes. These two highlighted sequences showcase Hitchcock's ability to develop tension no matter the location. The location becomes a character in itself. Details regarding the other neighbours, from a pesky dog that is murdered to a lonely pianist catering to busy parties in his loft apartment, all contribute to making the film's world a distinctive setting. Even these small appearances by other neighbours receive their own character arcs. The pianist meets another lonely neighbour and they share an interest in music. Even smaller details, such as once the antagonist is caught and arrested, his apartment is being redecorated, prepared for being rented by another tenant. In conclusion, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, like his film Rope, develops tension effectively through the use of fewer locations in comparison to the more extravagant settings of some of his other films. Even the depiction of the variety of neighbours adds to the distinctive character of the more minimalist setting.